Dear students, let us start the discussion on today's newspaper, that is 14 June 2016. In this, the first article is related to the Rakesh suits, the NSG and India's entry into NSG, how it shall engage its diplomatic efforts. Rakesh Sood's article, always I follow them for one reason. So the essence will always be substantiated with a backgrounder. So he strides origin and then where we stand with regard to NSG today. So entire background history he tries to talk in that particular article. Now let us see the background history of NSG. It stands for Nuclear Suppliers Group. Initially it has started as London Club. The objective was to stop the nuclear proliferation. So in this case, slowly, it has gained its importance during Gulf War. So during Gulf War, as Iraq is trying to get the nuclear weapon, so these have tightened their norms and full scope safeguard. This has been introduced at that point of time. So as of now, the countries, the participating governments shall follow certain norms to be eligible to be a participating government or under NSG. And as you know, NSG makes all the decisions on a consensus basis. And any country which is a part of NSG gets a chance to influence the nuclear commerce across this high table. What are the things a prospective government has to consider to join NSG? The first thing is they have to possess these nuclear technologies, and they shall have the ability to supply these items which are on the list of NSG, and they shall abide by the NSG guidelines, and there shall be a legally based export control system, and they have to follow that. And the most important thing, they have to be the signatory of treaties like NPT, which provides for full scope safeguards. Full scope safeguards means the country's nuclear establishments will come under the inspections of IAEA. So in this context, as India is already a nuclear nation, already consists of nuclear weapons, this last thing, that is placing India's nuclear establishments under full scope safeguards of IAEA, that is what something troublesome. Other than that, India has a very fair, good track record with all the other conditions. This is where China is trying to hold India back. So China is trying to bring in nuclear hyphenation of India with Pakistan. Now if you see, India has respected the nuclear non-proliferation regimes from very beginning. And China and Pakistan are known for violating them. Now, China came to be a member of NSG in 2004. Now, after becoming the NSG member, China is not supposed to supply the nuclear technology to any other country which is not a signatory of NPT and approved by NSG. But China has supplied nuclear reactors to Chashma in Pakistan, Chashma nuclear station in Pakistan. And it has said that it is an earlier commitment between China and Pakistan. And in this context, the nuclear hardliners, they don't have much respect towards China and its proliferation regime. And on the other hand, Pakistan, it is not yet ready for the NSG membership, and China wants to use the Pakistan to dilate the entire process to, increase or else to delay the entire process. That's what China is trying to do. So now, in these circumstances, our diplomatic engagement has to be twofold. One is engaging with China, and other one is the engagement with the countries which want a process rather than giving exceptions to India. So we need to simultaneously engage these two powers. With regard to China, MTCR, Missile Technology Control Regime, entry into it can be a bait. Now China is not a member of MTCR because it has clandestinely supplied the missile technology to North Korea. So US, if it is taking on the side of India, already it is supporting India. So MTCR can be a bargaining chip between India's entry into NSG and China's opposition to it. Now coming to Israel-Palestinian Log Jam. You know that there are two parts. Over here one is Gaza and then Israel, West Bank. Now in this case, Israel is encouraging the settlements in West Bank. and it is against to the UN Security Council resolution. And Gaza is dominated by Hamas. And what the Hamas want is a complete Palestinian country with, as it looks like in 1948. So it means it do not recognize the existence of Israel itself. Now, on the other hand, Israel is talking about direct talks between the Palestinian Authority and the Israel government. The Palestinian Authority, it supports the two-state or two-nation theory, but however it is losing respect among the people due to high corruption, and the world Mahmoud Abbas is also unable to take forward the Palestinian Authority's control over the Palestinian controlled areas. And the third issue between these countries is Jerusalem. So now United States has tried to resolve the issue, but the issue was not resolved. And for the past 2 years, there is no significant developments on Israel-Palestine. So in this context, recently, France has conducted a seminar, or France has conducted a summit on Israel-Palestine commitment to create some parameters for negotiations. Now you know that the Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, he is opposed to the talks, and he is suggesting for direct talks between Israel and Palestine. But however, it is not possible, or as both the countries are not equal, and Israel is not fulfilling whatever the commitments it made towards the Palestine. So in this context, if you see the Iran, all the countries came together on one single line to make the Iran compromise on its nuclear program. But with regard to the Israel, this is not happening. So in this context, a collective action of the global nations to make the Israel to abide by the UN rules that can bring in some solution to this problem in the long run. And coming to the strategic autonomy, it is related to recent US-India growing relationships. So the recent Prime Minister Modi's visit to United States. So there are various agreements which are signed. So they are majorly climate and energy, export control and defense production, and cyber issues. With regard to the climate change, US want HFCs, hydrofluorocarbons, which are artificial refrigerants, to be dealt under Montreal Protocol. Similarly, aero emissions, emissions from the aeroplanes, shall be dealt under the framework of International Civil Aviation Organization. But India, today it was, since long it was talking about dealing these two things under the climate change framework. So in this context, India finally agreed to deal hydrofluorocarbons under Montreal Protocol and aeroplane emissions under ICAO framework based on the market share of different countries. Now, in return to that, India is getting climate finance and also International Solar Alliance. The US agreed to become a partner and mobilize its weight to increase the number of member countries into this. And coming to defense, there is a major shift over here where India is declared as a major defense partner, and the license-free supply of dual technologies is possible because of this. And added to that, the joint strategic vision document, which was signed during Mr. Carter's visit, has come into implementation. So both the countries suggest they signed logistics exchange memorandum of agreement. And on to that, cyber issues. So India agreed a commitment for open communication, open flow of communication. So now, in the big data, there is an issue that is called data localization. It means our data has to be routed through our own country, and so it means we want to protect our data, and all these companies, multinational companies, shall have their Indian presence to run the operations in India. So India now agreeing to the free flow of communication, probably it may be a breather for these MNCs. And next is intellectual property regime. This is another problematic area. India also aims to tighten the ICT based intellectual property, or to promote the ICT based intellectual property, and the rules will be made appropriately. But on the other side, US agreed for a complete cooperation on cybercrime, and also a critical internet infrastructure will be developed in India. It means that root servers will be established in India. So it means it's more a give and take kind of relationship that was established. And coming to public land and private treatment. Consider the situation in India. 1/3 of the population in India only gets the governmental medical services. 2/3 has to depend upon the private sector. And most of the expenditure in the private sector is the out-of-pocket expenditure. So in these circumstances, India has only 8% of the insurance coverage for the health issues, as insurance coverage is low. So it means that the disease is going to make the people to suffer, and it is the major reason for poverty. So in this context, in Delhi, the government has provided the space for the private hospitals to establish and run. And in lieu of that, private hospitals have to provide for the free medical services to the poor. In 2007 itself, Delhi High Court said that the 25% of the outpatients and 10% of the inpatient beds shall be allocated for the poor people, which is not followed by all these hospitals. In this context, the Kejriwal government has recommended for the imposition of a penalty of 600 crores to the tune of it. That is what is the challenge. In this case, if we want to universalize the health care, bringing a cooperation between private and public sectors is very critical if we take the situation of the Indians into consideration. Now coming to America's gun culture. Now there are three factors which happened with regard to the yesterday's violence in a pub in Florida, Orlando, Florida. One is Islamic State and its influence is growing, and because of this, the lone wolf attacks are increasing. Now in this context, if you see San Bernardino, this thing, and the present Orlando massacre, all these have certain commonalities. And the next is opposition to the transgenders and homosexuals and general prejudices against this community are visible. And finally, the gun culture in the United States. The Second Amendment to the Constitution of United States, it provides for a right to possess the gun by every citizen. And National Rifle Association, it is a big hindrance towards to bring any amendment to this or else any changes to this. What it argues is, to stop the gun culture, we have to provide for the more guns. It means other people also, if you possess the gun, then automatically gun culture will come down. That is what is the National Rifle Association's argument is. So in this context, US has to think twice before promoting its gun culture. What is the major solution? Free guns availability has to be reduced. And the second is the Islamic State and the fight against Islamic State will be a long run process, and we shall have the patience. So in the meanwhile, the West Asia, the state structure in West Asia and the North Africa has to be restored. Finally, the political debate in the ongoing election process shall not divide the people, it shall bring the people together, and the existing terror attack shall not be a basis for the elections to divide the people. These are the things we need to remember. And coming to Urta Punjab, it has got the A certificate, and Bombay High Court has indicted the CBFC not to be oversensitive about the creative freedoms of the artists. Now coming to India Ghana signed three agreements. Now India-Africa summit has held last year, and to consolidate the outcomes of the summit, the President Pranab Mukherjee is making a visit to the African nations, Namibia, Ivory Coast, and then he is going to visit Ghana. And India is the largest investor in Ghana. So in this context, during the President's visit, three MOUs are made. One is related to development of a joint commission and also visa waivers for various people, and on the Ghana part, they have asked for the civil nuclear cooperation from India. And coming to Indian Express, after the US entente. So what this article talks about? Now India is very good at making the strategic choices. So 1971 to 75, if you consider, Indira Gandhi, she made a treaty of peace and friendship with USSR, and then Bangladesh was separated from Pakistan, and then India also tested nuclear weapon, and then finally Sikkim was also joined into Indian Union. So these are all the various events occurred between 1975 to 75. So we have made the strategic choices, but we failed to respond to the after effects. So we failed to estimate that the China will supply the nuclear technology to Pakistan. Pakistan will also test a bomb at a later date. And the second is the sanctions, high technology sanctions against India. We failed to deal with them. And finally, with regard to the strengthening of China-US relationship and India's isolation, all these are the consequences that could have been better handled. So in this context, today, Modi is making his strategic choices. But however, in the process, the others will not be left out. So in this case, the apprehensions of China and Russia also need to be addressed. So that's what he talks about. Denying the Ambedkar his due. So here certain points are there. So you know that RSS is towards Hindu Rashtra. So in this context, in delegitimizing the constitution itself, they are trying to delegitimize the role of the Ambedkar, what he played in the drafting committee. That's what is the CPI Raja wants to say. So in this context, during Vajpayee era, the BJP government, NDA government has tried to amend the constitution, revise the constitution. Due to the resistance of President Narayanan, instead of writing it as revising the constitution, a national committee on working of the constitution was established under Justice Venkatachalaya. And finally, if you carefully observe the Narayanan statement, he has put this constitutional revision into perspective and said that let us examine whether the constitution has failed us or we have failed the constitution. So this has become a UPSC question that year. So it means, did constitution fail us or did we fail the constitution? That's what is the Narayanan's question to the Prime Minister was. So I mean that is even still important today. Now coming to the CSCs, the government of India is about to start CSC2. The CSC stands for Common Service Centers. Around 2.5 lakh common service centers will be made available across the village panchayats. The objectives of them is to provide various citizen-centric services such as financial inclusion services, educational services, and then business services. And all these things will be delivered through these common service centers in all the villages. So these are the articles. Now coming to Orlando Fire, already I have discussed it. Now Rajya Sabha recent elections, if we observe, the money has played an important role, and added to that the cross-voting across the political parties has increased. So till now Lok Sabha elections, the money played a vital role, but the menace also has spread to the Rajya Sabha. So it is a cautionary note to the political parties, and we shall be cautious enough not this menace to spread to the other places. So these are the articles of importance today. Thank you very much.